The town of Ostrowiec in southeastern Poland is typical of vast swathes of the country which suffer from grossly inadequate telephone services. People in areas like this are unlikely to have a phone at home, and the lines can be terrible. But now the gaps are starting to be filled by Netia, a joint venture between a Polish startup company and Sweden's state telecoms giant Telia.
Det Polen behöver i första hand är naturligtvis en utbyggnad av
The main thing which is necessary to achieve at the moment is to build up the basic telephone network, as the telephone penetration in Poland is only about 14 people out of every 100. On the other hand, the internet, ISDN and other modern services will of course also have a big market in Poland when the time comes.
Customers are queuing up for the new lines. Not surprisingly, as in the rural areas of Poland, there are fewer than 6 telephone lines for every 100 people, compared with a European average of 42. And there's a waiting list of 2 million. But eventually Netia want to compete in the big cities too.
We believe that the ministry, at the end of the day, will release for tender all the major cities in Poland, and we are getting ready for that era, supplying services in nearby rural areas and medium-sized cities, and we are going to be ready for that when it happens.
Sometimes you just have to use low-tech methods to install a high-tech network. These trenches ready to accommodate the Alcatel-Alstom fibre optic cables that Netia are using to extend lines you can use for computers as well as phone calls into the depths of Poland's underdeveloped countryside. Installing modern telephone cables in rural areas is much more expensive than doing it in the cities. But Netia are taking a calculated risk that the spread of long-distance usage and even email and the internet to people living in the countryside will bring them in a profit. Acting as a holding company, Netia is building a patchwork of operations around Poland, applying for licenses through alliances with local business people and councils. Here in Ostrowiec, for instance, a group of telecoms experts from the local steelworks gave up their jobs and set up under the Netia umbrella. The European Bank for Reconstruction and Development sees this as the build-up to a nationwide challenge to the state telecoms company TPSA.
The fact that that companies have, let's say, a license for rural telephony is a stepping stone to move to the cities, because the next phase of tendering for these licenses, which will happen next year, will be in the larger cities. And the fact that you are already an operator with a license in that area gives you bonus points in the tendering process.
The Swedes see their main contribution in this struggle to win market share as mobilizing their experience of how to maximize competitive advantage.
The main thing which Telia contributes to the Netia project in Poland is operational know-how. After all, Sweden is also a country where we have had very free and open competition in the area of telecommunications, so we brought our knowledge of how to compete in the telecom business.
The quickest and most obvious advantage to most local people comes from more and better public payphones. That's a social obligation placed on Netia by their licence, but they're looking for the profits to flow more from businesses coming over to them. There's enough confidence that will happen to have attracted a partner from as far away as Israel.
Dankner Investments, which in Israel is involved in telecommunications, the petrochemical industry, salt, construction, development and so forth, sees in Poland a strategic investment outside of Israel in the area of telecommunications.
If profits are to come, it'll depend partly on the government ending the state company's monopoly on long-distance and international calls. With the former communists back in power, there was for a while some doubt, but they've now agreed to open up the domestic long-distance market to competition in 1999, with international calls following a few years later.